Ekotürk'ten merhabalar değerli izleyenler. Bugün Kayseri Erciyes'teyiz. Özel bir röportajla karşınızdayım. Yanımda Avusturya'nın Türkiye Büyükelçisi Dr. Johannes Wimmer var ve burada kış ve dağ turizmi ele alınıyor. Farklı firmalar yer alıyor. Bunun yanı sıra 2 sene önceden farklılaşan bir tema, iklim krizi de önemli başlıklardan birini oluşturuyor. Lafı uzatmadan Büyükelçimize dönüyorum. Mr. Ambassador, hello again. Thank you so much for your participation. I'd like to start with the highlights from this year's organization, because there are some differences between 2 years ago's summit. Here we see climate change and climate crisis as an important issue as well, and it's a global concern, so it's underlined there, and different panels are having staged, and specifically to zoom in here, Europe, how do you think Europe is approaching to this issue, and how would you comment on Europe's future agenda for the climate change? Has been the efforts efficient so far?
First of all, to this summit here, the Mountain Technology Summit, this has grown enormously after the last time. The first summit happened in 2020 in Uludağ, just a few days before the pandemic hit us. It was rather small compared to this. There was good participation from businesses. The focus was much more on business to business, and it went very well. This year it's bigger. You have practically all leading mountain technology companies from Austria, and you have almost all the regions of Turkey represented here, and the scope is of course much bigger than last time. And as you mentioned already, this year there was also a focus on sustainability, on climate change in the panels themselves. This was one focus. The other focus was on financing. So this is a much bigger event this year.
Additionally, under these circumstances, year by year, what are your observations of its reflections on the ski culture, the climate change?
See, I'll get back to your first question on European Green Deal and how Europe tackles climate change. I think this is a very, very big effort. It's really very comprehensive. And it also includes Turkey. I mean, Turkey has signed the Paris Agreement, which was extremely welcome. And Turkish businesses were also realizing the challenge that lies ahead with the European Green Deal, and also with the necessity that businesses adapt. And I think this presents a lot of chances for the EU and Turkey in their interaction. I think it's a big chance, and of course it will require enormous effort. We are just at the beginning now. To reply to your question, we are at the beginning, so we have to now go on this in full speed.
Maybe we can put a parenthesis here with another issue Europe is facing nowadays. Beside the climate crisis, there's also an issue of energy, which comes up with the devastating situation now we are tracking up with the Ukraine and the Russia. So there are a lot of diplomatic gatherings as well nowadays we're following up. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson visited Saudi Arabia, and there's a search of an alternative energy, LNG for instance. And I know that in the earlier years you worked in Saudi Arabia as well. You were the Saudi Arabian ambassador to Avusturya, including Oman and Yemen as well. So I would like to hear your projections on the energy issue. How would you analyze the steps of Europe under this title? Will Europe make it without the Russian gas?
See, first of all, this is a security crisis. I mean, with Russia's attack on Ukraine, our whole security order, our regional security, but also global security order has been challenged. So, I mean, this is the main concern at the moment. I think this has to stop as soon as possible, and we have to reaffirm and we have to strengthen our security in this respect. Energy security is, of course, a main chapter, and we have been aware of some dependencies over the years. But diversification is not an easy task. It's also not very easy in peaceful times. There are many interests involved, and there are many actors involved. So perhaps we should have gone faster in diversifying. We should have gone faster in putting a lot of emphasis on renewables. But I mean, it's on the way. I think this will now speed up, and it will have to necessarily speed up. I think what you see now is, of course, attempts to bridge the crisis for some time, but we have to work on sustainable solutions in the long run. What you see now is, of course, everyone trying to make sure that our energy needs are met. But what we need in the long run is sustainability, much more renewables, and a proper diversification.
Also, how the Avusturya approaches to the sanctions towards Russia, is it an approach that is fully coordinated with EU's point of view?
Of course, yeah, we fully support.
Let's continue with this Turkish-Austrian partnership under today's organization. There's a goal to maximize Turkey's ski resource potential with a glimpse of an Austrian perspective, ski culture as well, because Avusturya has a rooted culture there. Can you tell us how this culture is shaped according to your experiences as well, and how do you see the dialogue between Turkey and Avusturya under this specific title? What would you say about Avusturya's partnership specifically with Turkey?
I would say the larger background is that our economic cooperation is very strong, despite the pandemic, despite at times, political factors which are at times complicating. But it's a very strong and solid base we're working on. So you have business to business, good relations. You have growing figures during the pandemic in terms of our trade volumes. And what I see here is that companies interact very well. Turkish, Austrian. There's a very good and positive spirit. With respect to mountain and winter tourism in particular, of course, Austria is one of the traditional countries of winter tourism, and we have a long history and lots of experience. Experience now is also, integrating the need to protect our environment and to deal with the very fragile and sensitive environments you have in mountains, on one hand, and also climate change, of course. I mean, climate change both ways, conditions change, but also our awareness has to be even stronger, and our responses have to be stronger to address the consequences of climate change. What Turkey and Austria can do here is really that I think Turkey can profit from Austria's experience. And Austrian companies can profit from the huge potential that Turkey has in terms of mountain and winter tourism. The potential is really huge here. You have all it needs: beautiful landscape. You have plenty of snow in winter, and you have simply fantastic mountains in all over Turkey, from west to east. So I mean, this is a huge potential.
And also, Robert Steiger, a professor from the University of Innsbruck, also underlined the thing that creating resorts which would work in summer and winter as well is important as well for non-skiers, for everybody in general. Do you see a potential like that in Turkey as well? How would you point out to this issue, like the statement he gave?
Yeah, there's a huge potential for that. As long as you respond and you adapt to the needs of having to run over 365 days a year. It went slow in Austria. There's some regions where you have traditional summer and winter, but there are others where winter dominated, and so it took some time to adjust and to respond to that. But I think this is very important because otherwise you have a very different. You then may have gaps. You may have problems also with response to the labor and all that. And I think it's certainly better for everyone if one could move to that kind of all year round tourism in those regions. Yeah.
I'd like to dig in more about Turkey-Austria relationships, not only related with today's topic, but as a whole big picture. While my search, I found out that on the year 2020, you pointed out 2022 for a science dialogue year between two countries, and here we are now. What would you say about this year, and what should we expect from this year?
The dialogue year, we had to simply forgo the plan because of the pandemic. What we have now is an arts and science dialogue that is permanent. So we are now it's now foreign ministries based mostly in terms of the dialogue, and we have decided that we have the dialogue to develop projects. So you will have various projects, practical and hands-on events, and at the same time we'll continue to discuss cultural and matters of science between foreign ministries, and we hope we can extend this to other partners, and we'll have plenty of events, and there's a lot going on already. So even this year there will be some activity, and but we found during pandemic times that's perhaps the best way to go.
Also, I've seen that you admit the conflicts between Turkey and Avusturya. However, you underlined the strong relations between two countries. And last January, it was the 98th anniversary of the Turkish-Austrian Treaty of Friendship. What's the importance of this treaty?
This treaty is, in essence, the establishment of diplomatic relations between the new young republics. Both our countries have a long history also of being parts of big empires. And this was the two republics getting together. And what is very interesting about that time is that there was a lot of cooperation between Austria and Turkey in the interwar period. You can see that from the buildings in Ankara, where Austrian architects, including Clemens Holzmeister, have built famous buildings, but there are many other corporations during that time which really strengthened the ties. And this is again, even in terms of bilateral cooperation, a very solid ground on which we build. So occasional complications, I wouldn't call it conflicts, occasional complications will not change this. I mean, it's solid and we can build on it.
So we talked about some common areas which Austria and Turkey can focus on together. Which other areas do you see a common future between two countries?
I think that, as we mentioned energy before, renewables and renewable energy would be perfect. Austria has a lot of how would you say activity already. Background. We have many power plants in Turkey. Many hydropower plants have Austrian technology, have been built by Austrian companies. So this is something we can even extend. Green technology is another a very important area. I think digitalization, we have to also look into that. So I think there's plenty of scope for very interesting cooperations in many fields. And Turkey has a very strong industrial base and a lot of experience and knowledge in their industries. So I think I'm quite optimistic, also against the geopolitical background, because Turkey is becoming even more interesting as a place for cooperations.
Yeah, you pointed out two really important topics, I think, because the green energy and digitalization, it's the two main things now we're trying to catch up, like all of us, because the world is getting there, and with the cars, with the batteries, everything, there should be a huge transformation to catch up. And lastly, we talked about Turkey, Avusturya, we talked about EU and some current news. Again, Avusturya specifically, besides EU, in the future, what are the collaborations, like which countries are you trying to do or aiming to do partnerships in? I mean, it could be economic partnerships or some other ties as well. Like, would you point out some different countries that you're interested in?
I would say Austria is very globally oriented. I mean, our economy is to a huge extent based on exports. So what is very important for us now in this pandemic phase and also in the pandemic in the recovery phase of the pandemic is that we really expand our global activity. Companies get access to new markets, and Austria as a business location is also promoted all over the world. This is called Refocus Austria.
Yeah,
Today's event is part of it, and the idea is really to go global or continue going even more global, because Austria is already very global. But this is the focus, and we don't really, how would I say, we wouldn't exclude anyone.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Röportajımızın sonuna geldik değerli izleyenler. Bana Avusturya'nın Türkiye Büyükelçisi Dr. Johannes Wimmer eşlik etti ve hem Avusturya-Türkiye ilişkilerini hem de güncel haberlerde öne çıkanları değerlendirdik birlikte. Noktalıyoruz burada. Teşekkürler dinlediğiniz için. Bir başka röportajda görüşmek dileğiyle.